Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blind Truth podcast. Today we are joined by Michael O'Brien, who is an author and a fervent campaigner for miscarriages of justice. And when you hear this podcast, you're going to know why. It's a really, really good story. So, hello Michael, or Mike if you prefer. Thank you very much for coming up to see us today. I know it's been a long way from Cardiff and we really appreciate you coming up.
No, it's for the greater good, at the end of the day, and I'm pleased to be here.
Brilliant, thank you. So tell us a little bit about Michael, where you're from, where you were raised, that kind of thing.
Well, I was born in Cardiff and raised in a place called Ely, and I'd done 11 years and 43 days, for something I didn't do, but that's where I was brought up, and I ended up living in back in Cardiff when I come out, and I got to be fair, the people were brilliant for me, in Ely, and I'd like to give them a big shout out as well, because if it wasn't for the people in Ely,
Ely?
Yeah, in Cardiff, so my family were brilliant what they'd done for me.
They all stuck by you.
Oh, they did. I mean, my mother and my sister Sue, they campaigned all over the place. My sister had job opportunities. She turned them down because she didn't want to go away to Canada. She stayed with me. Sadly, she lost a daughter as well as like I did, so we've got a really strong bond, do you know what I mean?
Of course.
And she's fantastic. I like to give her a mention because she's fantastic. Absolutely. She's fantastic.
Her name is what, Susan?
Yeah, Sue. She likes to be called
Sue.
Susan.
Sue.
Yeah,
good on you, Sue. Well done, my love. So, just for clarification purposes for the audience then, you were wrongly convicted of somebody's murder.
Yes, he was a Cardiff newsagent, and it was in 1987. He was brutally murdered outside his home and battered with a shovel. It was a brutal murder. Right. I know all murders are bad, but this one was really, really horrible, especially when you're being accused of it.
Of course. So that must have come as a great shock. I presume, maybe this could be my crazy creative imagination running wild, but did you get kind of knocked up in the middle of the night and arrested and all that stuff?
Well, it was early hours of the morning. It was on the 1st of November. I remember it quite clearly, 1987, and I was down my sister-in-law's house at the time. I was married and I had a child, and one on the way. And they booted the door down. There was no need for them to boot the door down. We would have opened the door, And they said, "Are you Michael O'Brien?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And they said, "We're arresting you for the murder of Philip Saunders." And I said, "Well, who the fuck is Philip Saunders?" That's exactly what the words I used.
Well, yeah, you would.
I didn't know the guy. I genuinely didn't know the guy, So I was, as I said, I was only 19 and I was scared. I'm not going to lie. I was scared out of my wits. Now, when I went into the police station, I've never had no dealings with the police before, only as a victim,
Right.
So I've never come across it, malpractice or anything like that. I thought we'd get in there, tell our story, tell them what we were doing. Yeah. And I got to be honest, I was no angel, but I was no Ronnie Biggs or anything like that. I was out nicking cars with the boys, trying to fit in. And it cost me dearly. And that's in a nutshell what we were doing. I couldn't even drive. I allowed myself to be carried in a stolen vehicle, but I was just as bad. And I'm not.
Well, that's a world away from murder, isn't it?
Very much so. I held on a full-time job. This is the crazy thing as well. I was one of the few all of my mates were working, but I just got curious and wanted to fit in because I never fitted in school.
Yeah.
I had the national health glasses. I was the little skinny kid. I don't know what's happened in recent years.
So you had the little Joe 90s and all
that's
that.
That's right. So I was bullied in school. I had a really terrible time.
Yeah.
My father was an alcoholic, my stepfather, and I seen some, domestic violence towards my mother. We didn't have it easy when we were kids, and I didn't have it easy in school. So I didn't have many friends because we didn't have the nice clothes like some of the others had,
Right. It sounds like my upbringing as well, this, but yeah, go on.
But, this is the harsh realities, and I wanted to fit in and be one of the boys. So when they said, "Oh, do you want to come out with us?" I was like, I felt a bit privileged at the time. I thought, "Oh yeah, let's And I went for it, and look what it cost me. And that's one thing I would say to the youngsters today: don't be influenced by other people, because I was
peer pressure.
Yeah, peer pressure. Because if you do, you could end up like me in prison for something you didn't do. So, You know, that's how it all stemmed from.
So you served 11 years and 43 days.
Yes, I was on my 12th year, yes.
I mean, most of us, myself included, that is mind-blowing amount of time. I mean, you must have gone, it doesn't even begin to cover it, but you must have gone through hell and back and back and back and back several times.
Well, it got even worse because when I was on remand, my wife walked out on me and my daughter died of a cot death just before the trial. So I was in no fit state.
And you were on remand. And now I've experienced a cot death. I've lost a child to cot death as well. But I can't imagine how much worse that would have been had I been incarcerated for something I had done. Never mind for something I hadn't. Well, I mean, did they let you go to the funeral?
They did let me go to the funeral, and I got to be fair, Mr. Jenkins, who was one of the prison officers, was really great with me. Like, I got to be fair in those days from Cardiff Prison, and I got to give a big shout out to Mr. Jenkins. I don't know whether he's still with us, but he was one of the good prison officers I met, and you know, he showed compassion. You know, and
were you in cuffs at the funeral?
I was in cuffs. I was double cuffed because I was in a, you know, because I was facing a life sentence.
Sure.
So I was seen as a high security risk. But I think the hardest part for me is looking at the shoebox, because that's all it was, the size of a shoebox, my daughter. And when I looked at that, you know, that really messed my head up. It was bad enough being, I was in prison for something I didn't do, then my daughter died, and then my wife walked out of me. I'd lost everything, you know. I didn't have much money. I come from a poor family, but I had something which money couldn't buy, and that was a family unit. And once that was gone,
you had nothing left.
I had nothing left.
And facing the thick end of what you probably was imagining was, I mean, when you were sentenced to, I presume the judge said it was a life sentence, but they give you a minimum recommendation, don't they?
Yes, they did. I had a tariff of 14 years.
So you nearly served it, didn't you?
Well, they told me that when I was inside, because I wouldn't accept parole or go for any hearings or do any rehabilitation programs, because there was nothing to rehabilitate. I didn't do it. So
that was your way of saying, I shouldn't be here, yeah.
A probation officer told me, with an attitude like that, O'Brien, if you keep saying you're innocent, you're never going to get out. And I said, so be it. And I remember writing to the local newspapers saying, I don't want parole. I want my innocence established. If I die in prison, then so be it. I'm still an innocent man, no matter where you send me, what you do to me. And I stuck by that. I was prepared to die in prison as an innocent man.
You steadfastly stuck by that.
I would never have taken.
Time.
Yeah, never would have accepted parole ever.
Surely though, after X amount of time of you not changing from that, not faltering from that at all, somebody somewhere in a dusty office in London or wherever must have been thinking, this guy's fucking not done this.
Well, it was. I'll tell you how it started. It was in 1992. You know, it took me 2 years to get my head together. I did go down some rocky roads, you know. I mean, I never smoked before I went into prison. I didn't know what drugs was. I was quite naive in that respect.
Right.
But there's me taking, you know, cocaine. I was smoking cannabis. I was taking amphetamines. Right. And for the first 2 years, I just blotted it all out. I didn't know what to do. So that was like 1990 when we lost our first appeal. Right. But then something extraordinary happened. I met some other victims of miscarriages of justice who were high profile in the media. You know, Paddy Hill was in prison. Yeah. There was Johnny Walker. There was Hugh Callahan from the Birmingham Six. There was also Vincent Hickey, who gave me a kick up the bum, which I needed. And they basically said to me, it's no use you smashing up your cell and kicking off with the prison officers. They didn't put you in prison.
No.
So I took stock, and the one night I took so many drugs, I fell asleep on the bed, and it was about 8 o'clock in the night I woke up. Now I was supposed to be in work in the afternoon. They couldn't wake me up for work. And when I woke up, I went to go work in the laundry in Long Lartin. I went to get my stuff to go back to work. Right. And they said to me, O'Brien, it's 8 o'clock. You can't go to work. Where you been? So I had a look. I thought the officer was winding me up, and I said, "Listen, boss, just take me to fucking work."
You lost all track of time.
Yeah, I lost all track of time.
Yeah.
And when I went in the office and had a look at the time, it dawned on me that I had a serious drug problem.
Right.
I went up to bed. I went up to my cell, and I cried my eyes out. And I thought, I've got to sort myself out. That was the turning point for me.
What alcoholics call a moment of clarity.
Well, I went and made an appointment to see the psychiatrist and psychologist, and I told them I had a drug problem. Yeah. You know, I knew I could have got into trouble for it because, you know, but I thought, well, what are they going to do? I'm doing a life sentence anyway.
You've been enough shit.
Yeah, I was in enough shit. Yeah, so I didn't care. Yeah. But they were really good to me, and this one psychologist, Fiona, believed in my innocence, but she couldn't come out and say it, but she told me, and told me to keep fighting. She helped me get off the drugs, and then the anger came. And God, I was angry. I was so angry, Phil. It's unbelievable. I thought, I'm not taking this lying down. So I thought, what can I do? So I was told I couldn't read or write when I went into prison very well. So I went on education classes.
Yeah.
And I took exams 1, 2 and 3 in English and passed them with 90%. I then done some maths and got some city and guilds behind me.
Yeah.
Then I started studying law. And I started studying law because I was looking at why people confess to things they haven't done. Because my co-accused, obviously your listeners don't know that bit yet, but my co-accused, after 14 confessions in the police station, admitted he done it, and we were with him. After 14 confessions with no solicitor present in these interviews, we were denied food and water in the police station. We were handcuffed to hot radiators for long periods of time, and like a desk you got here, we were handcuffed to one of them as well. And we were being well, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, you know.
Wow.
So I had to find out law-wise why people confess. And then there was the Judith Ward case, there was other case, the Darvell brothers, there was many other people who had their convictions overturned who had confessed to crimes. And I started understanding the mechanisms of Darren Hall, my co-accused. And when I did understand that, my anger towards him subsided because it wasn't his fault. He was a vulnerable person.
He was brainwashed, essentially.
Yeah, and the police knew this. What I did find out later is he confessed to a crime he didn't do before, and he went in front of the magistrate's court, and they said to him, you're a Walter Mitty character. Now, the prosecution did not divulge that he had confessed to something he hadn't done before.
Right, yeah.
And he got cleared of those offences. And do you know who his witnesses was? His solicitor. His solicitor. He said he'd done all these car crimes on a certain date, but he was in his solicitor's office at that time, and he couldn't have done it.
Man.
So they knew that he was lying.
So there's red flags all over the place.
Absolutely. They were looking for one person, 6 foot tall, 15 stone build. I was 6 stone 6 when I went into prison.
And you're not 6 foot, are you?
No, I'm not 6 foot. I might be 15 stone now, but I wasn't then. 6 stone 6 is on my medical records in my prison system.
So, Mike, let me ask you, so you got arrested at your sister-in-law's, did you say?
Yes.
Hiked off. I mean, you must have been thinking, I mean, what the fucking hell's going on, number one, of course, but you must have been thinking, nah, this is going to get sorted out. This is going to be okay. It'll come to light that obviously I didn't do this, because you didn't. So was there a point in the process where you thought, do you know what, I'm going to end up wearing this?
Yes, there was. When I was arrested on the 1st of November, questioned for till the 3rd of November and released on police bail pending further inquiries. And what actually happened then, on the 10th of November, we were rearrested and they said they had new evidence. Now, this new evidence come from ex-prisoners who alleged that they seen us in town spending money and bragging about the robbery. And then there was a police officer who reckons he was outside the cells and he heard a conversation between me and my other co-accused, Ellis Sherwood, confessing to the murder. Now, we denied that because we didn't confess to the murder. But what we didn't know, this officer, years later, he'd been doing this for a number of years. But at the time, we didn't know this. So I knew there was a real possibility we were going to get wrongly convicted. You know, when I seen that police officer blatantly lie about that confession he made up, I was so shocked and horrified. I thought, this can't be happening.
So why did he do that? Have you ever found out?
They wanted a conviction. It was a big the publicity surrounding Philip Saunders' death, the murder. I mean, the police were under pressure, serious pressure. He was a well-known businessman, well liked in the area.
Was he a news agent?
He was a news agent. Yes. I mean, I've done a bit of research, and I've met the victim's family as well, surprisingly. Yeah. And they know that we didn't do this crime now. But at the time, they must have thought we were the persons responsible, Philip Saunders was an honest man, you know what I mean? And whoever done this, evil and wicked.
His name's eerily close to mine, isn't it? Philip Surety, I am.
Yes.
Philip with an S, you know.
But all I can say is when I was in prison, I was in a terrible state, as you can imagine. I mean, I was trying to cope with my daughter's death, trying to cope with my wife leaving me, and I loved her to bits. You know what I mean? I didn't want that to happen.
I get you.
But she was only young. She was only 18, and at the end of the day, you know, when you look at it from that point of view,
she couldn't handle it.
She couldn't handle it. Yeah. She had a husband inside. She just lost her daughter, and her brother was my co-accused, so she lost her brother as well.
Oh, really? So I didn't know that.
Ellis Sherwood, is my co-accused, but he was also my brother-in-law. I married his sister, Donna.
Right, see, one of my questions was going to be, what's the relationship like with the other two now? So
I forgive them a long time ago, Darren Hall. You know what I mean?
Forgave them? What, for confessing, you mean?
I forgive Darren for confessing because it wasn't his fault. I understand he was browbeated and he was vulnerable.
Yeah.
I've got 2 psychological reports we got done on him, and he said he was a very vulnerable person. It was clear he couldn't have done the murder because what he was saying didn't tally up with the actual facts of the crime scene.
For the forensics and stuff.
Yeah, the forensics didn't add up. There was no forensic against any of us because we wasn't there.
How the hell did this conviction ever happen? With them kind of circumstances, lack of DNA, I presume, lack of forensics, I presume, a completely wrong description.
Yeah.
Not only in number of people, but description of the one person they say they saw. It couldn't be more different.
Well, this is it. But
has someone just set you up here? Or, I mean, this
is
what
It was a setup. You know, I mean, when a police officer says he wrote down a 2-page confession coming from me and Ellis, and it went something like this: Ellis, why don't you tell him what happened? And then O'Brien, why didn't you tell him the truth? He says, being on remand means nothing. Well, why don't you tell him what happened? How can I? Hall's grass in us. And it went something on those lines, you know?
Right.
That was a confession. If the jury believed the police officer, who's got 30 years in the police force, never been into trouble, you know, exemplary record, or you got 3 little scallywags who were out on the night in question, trying to steal a car.
Who are you going to believe,
we were working class boys. Do you know what I mean? We didn't stand a chance.
So his motive was just clear the numbers, clear the decks.
Clear the decks, yes. Oh. And what I can tell you further down the line is I done some research when I was in prison, and I went on hunger strike. I did in '92, and we coordinated the first hunger strike throughout the prison system, and it hit Radio 4.
Right.
And this journalist from ITV read my story about this Stuart Lewis, and he remembers him from other cases where he's done wrong. That's when it all started unravelling. He'd done this in the Anthony Yellen case. He made up a 39-page confession. The jury said he was a liar and acquitted the gentleman. We didn't know that at the time. There was the Welsh conspiracy case where he made up a confession with the boys saying they bombed the English holiday homes, and it wasn't true. And it all unravelled.
Is this the same cop?
This is the same cop. He's got about 15 different things against...
My God. He's not still a cop now, is he?
No, he was pushed into retirement because of our case.
Because of what happened.
I did try to get him done for perjury. I did try to get him done for misfeasance in public office.
Yeah.
But the courts wasn't having it. They just wouldn't. You know, it just don't happen, unfortunately.
It's incredible, that, isn't it?
But I tell you what I did do. I did take a civil action against South Wales Police, and they settled out of court for malicious prosecution. And 33 years later, in 2020, I surprisingly, through my MP, Beth Winter, got a letter of apology from South Wales Police acknowledging I'm a victim of a miscarriage of justice. And I've been fighting 33 years later. But I got it.
Well done, you. So the obvious question, I'm sure, on most people's lips is, you must have been compensated heavily. And if it's something you can't talk about, then don't worry about it.
No, not at all. I did get compensated, but there's a funny twist in this tale. I was deducted £37,500 from my food and water whilst I was in prison for my bed and board.
What?
And they don't charge guilty people, only innocent people.
Wait a minute. What? They charged you for your bed and board while you were wrongfully convicted?
Yes, they did. Yes, I took them to court. I took them to the High Court. I won in the High Court.
Oh my fucking days.
The House of Law. Yeah, well, I've still got an ongoing case now because there was a guy called Andy Malkinson. You might have known him. He's done 17 years for something he hasn't done, and he was cleared a couple of years ago. And they said they're not going to charge him bed and board, and they were going to re-look at the case of mine and all the others they charged us for.
Right.
But then that was under the Tories. But then the Labour got in and said no.
So let's, when you boil that down, had you murdered this poor chap, you'd be 37.5 grand better off.
I would have been, yeah.
You wouldn't have got compensated, of course, but what I mean is, so they will charge the innocent, but had you been guilty, we wouldn't have charged you for the accommodation.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, because they were, because the government said they were going to look at it again, and they're picking and choosing now. They're saying the ones who have been charged, they're not going to get their money back, but anyone from now on will not be charged any money.
Well, that's bollocks.
So they're discriminating against us. I've got a case in the High Court now against the Labour government saying you're discriminating against us under Article 14. You're treating us different. And I've got a barrister and a solicitor on board, but I was on Good Morning Britain a few months ago,
right.
And Richard Madley was absolutely furious, and the public were furious.
Right.
I have got a petition on change.org over the bed and board case, and I got 58,000 signatures.
Wow.
To try and get my money back. You know, the people have come up to me in the streets, you know, just random people saying, this is outrageous, and it is. But, you know, there's this possibility we could still lose the case. We need a change in the law, I think.
What? There was something about the minimum levels as well that changed just before you got out, wasn't there?
The compensation?
Yeah.
Yes, they're saying you can only get up to £1 million now, and they're saying if you were in a high profile job, or a big job, and you were earning like 60 grand a year,
yeah,
you're entitled to your loss of earnings normally, but they've capped it at £1 million.
Okay.
And that's the maximum you can get. So if you've done 40 years, you'd only get £1 million, even though you've got 40 years loss of earnings.
Anything over 10? Is 10 years the watershed?
No, you can get compensation, you know, but it's very, very difficult. The government are now saying you've got to prove your innocence before you're entitled to compensation. There's a big stink about it. There was Victor Neelan, wrongly convicted. There was a guy called Sam Hallam. He was wrongly convicted in London. They got their name cleared, and Victor Neelan was cleared on DNA evidence, and they said he wasn't innocent enough to get compensation.
What?
And it went to the European Court, and they ratified it. They said that you've got to prove your innocence. It's outrageous what's going on miscarriages of justice.
Wow.
So I'm fighting against that as well, to get compensation for the ones who haven't got compensation.
Sorry, it's my watch going off. Apologies. So, I mean, I honestly, mate, I don't know how you kept your head together. I really don't. I know it's been a long time since now, but during that time, I mean, every single, the sort of character I am, every order I would be given by an officer, I would refuse. I would do absolutely nothing they said, not a thing.
Well, there's some interesting stuff, because when I studied law in Long Art in prison, and I mean, that's one of the worst prisons I've been in, there were 7 people who were murdered in prison when I was there. I mean, it shocked me. I mean, I've seen some terrible things. I've seen some terrible things happen to prison officers.
I bet.
And I've seen terrible things happen to inmates as well, you know, and I don't like violence. I'm not a violent man at all, you know.
You must have been scared to death.
Well, you've got to put a persona on that, you know, if you mess with me, I'll have a row. And I did have to have a row with people sometimes, just to show that I was game. Whether I win or
you have to,
win or lose, it didn't matter. Once you show and stand your ground, people would leave you alone. You know, I was never a hard man. I'm not a hard man or anything like that, but I would have a go. You know, because you've got to.
Well, I remember John McVicker saying, okay, I'm going to lose him, but it'll be the best fucking second you've ever seen. So you're at least going to have a go. So you're going to get hurt either way. So, and eventually he was left alone, wasn't he?
This is what it's all about. In prison, you can't show fear. You can't show that you're scared. If you do, you get swallowed up, and I tell you, you'd be swatted like a fly.
Oh, you're a victim, full stop.
You know, they'll have your tobacco off you, your phone cards, whatever, your canteen, you know, and all that. You can't. You've got to stand your ground. Even if you lost, you go back for more if you've got to, just to let him know that, you know, I'm prepared to have a go.
Yeah, bring it on,
Yeah, you know, of course I was scared. I'm not going to deny that, you know what I mean? As I said, you know, I've seen some horrible things. I've seen boiling hot cooking fat thrown over prison officers' faces and the skin peeling off their faces. I mean, that shocked me. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some terrible things. One guy, Norman Manning, died in front of me. He was on a somebody had stabbed him numerous times, and I just knew he was going to die.
Yeah.
Because they stabbed him in the heart, the lungs, the groin. Whoever done it knew they were going to do it.
Over and over, frenzied. Probably,
yeah, it was a frenzied attack,
Yeah.
and I thought some of the prison officers were a bit callous because they were cleaning out the cell. The guy hadn't even died. They're trying to move another guy in, shortly afterwards, and I was a bit.
Hose it down and move another one in.
Well, I suppose they get hardened to it as well. They've got to, haven't they? I'm not making excuses for them, but I mean, at the time, I thought it was quite heartless. But looking back on it now, with a clearer head, I mean, they must have seen so many deaths. They must have just thought, "Oh, one off, Gov, and not another one." Because that's what I was like when it come to the seventh person who was killed. I was like, "Oh, does anybody want a spliff? Anyone want a fag? Do you know what I mean? Or do you want a bit of hooch? Because we made our own hooch and stuff like that. Survival. But it did affect us. I think I suffer from. I didn't realise at the time, but when I come out, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, I bet you was.
So I'm still on medication to this day. You might not notice, I'm quite calm and everything, but I'm on medication.
Yeah.
I'm still seeing a psychiatrist. 25 years since I've been out, and yes, I've been damaged. But I'll tell you this: I won't let the buggers beat me ever.
Oh no, I can still hear that in your voice.
No, I'll never let them beat me. And what I spend my time doing now is writing books.
Yeah.
I've wrote 8 books. I'm writing another 2 at the moment. I'm trying to get a judicial inquiry into all the miscarriages of justices in Wales, because there's been at least 15, all in the same area, same officers, same solicitors, same barristers. And I wrote a book called The Dossier, which is that's all in there. And I mean, it's a damning indictment of what was going on.
So being careful, obviously, with your answers, of course. But have you had any reprisals from exposing these people?
I had a lot of problems in my hometown. I had to move from my hometown because I got the compensation from the police, and when I got the
compensation then?
Yes, I did. I got over £1 million. I did.
Oh, right.
I got £300,000 from the police, and I got 675 from the Home Office.
Ah, right. I didn't realise that.
Yeah. No, I did. I got compensated, but do you know something? The money didn't mean nothing to me. My kids, how can you put a price on losing my daughter?
You can't.
And my stepfather when I was in Franklin prison. And, I just, people will say, well, you should be grateful and all this and all that. You've got money now and this, that and the other.
Oh,
money is the root of all evil. My family turned against me, some of my family. And I got to be careful what I'm saying because I'm writing a book about it and all that now. And I got to get my P's and Q's right. And friends even deserted me because I wouldn't give them money and I wouldn't,
It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, I got caught up. I tried to do my own business. I got ripped off in the business venture. I got ripped off at, buying cars. I didn't know anything about a car. You know what I mean? So when somebody says about, I couldn't even drive properly. I was learning to drive.
Yeah.
And friends I trusted sold me dodgy cars. And these are supposed to be friends of mine. So I moved out of Cardiff with my wife when it was a sad incident happened in 2012, which was another defining moment in my life.
Yeah.
My son Dylan died of a rare genetic disorder.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
He died at 2.5 years of age. I sued the Heath Hospital, for negligence, and they agreed it was negligence. And I done a TV programme, and I set up a charity called the Dylan O'Brien Foundation to help other children with metabolic and genetic disorders.
Right.
Unfortunately, COVID had us because we were only a small charity.
Yeah.
But in that small time, we made a big difference. And what I'd like to say is this. Yes, I've had a horrible life. Yes, I've had a lot of bad things happen to me. But you've got to look at the positives. And there is positives. Dylan saved lives. We were buying sleep apnea machines, which detected if a baby stopped breathing so you can get to them and save their lives. We had all the notes changed in the doctors. So if you lost a child or your wife lost a child from a previous relationship, all the notes are all together and they'd be able to pick it up and you'd be put on what they call the CONI program.
Yeah.
Right, which is care of next infant. So they could monitor.
I've experienced it, yeah.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying is spot on. So I think my life now is about helping others. It's not about Michael O'Brien and what he wants in life. I feel I got a purpose, and my purpose is to help other people, and there's numerous cases I've been involved in. Jeremy Bamber's case, that man is definitely innocent in my view. I've looked at the case. There's just so many. There's Joe Fetta's case as well in Cardiff, which happened in 2016. Same practices, using criminals to give false evidence against people and stuff like that.
But normally their evidence is meaningless, isn't it?
But it's still getting convictions in Wales, and this is what concerns me.
Yeah.
You know,
what are they getting for doing that, for giving that evidence? Are they getting preferential treatment themselves?
There's the Craigavon too. There's the Merthyr Girls case. The Merthyr Girls got wrongly convicted. One of them still trying to overturn a conviction now. What they done, they were really crafty. The South Wales Police were. They basically, she got acquitted eventually of what she was accused of, but then they done her for perjury by saying that the other witness, she covered up for it, and she didn't. And we found evidence now to prove that what started the fire, which killed these two children and a mother, was unleaded petrol, and they were seen on the camera putting in the other petrol, so it couldn't have been them. So that's only just been recently come out in a podcast on BBC Radio Wales. We got a leading expert from America. It wasn't me who done that, but I knew about it, and I wrote about it in my book and highlighted it. But so there's a case I'm trying to get back to the Court of Appeal there. There's Joe Fetta's case I'm trying to get back to the Court of Appeal. Jeremy Bamber, I'm actually a patron of his campaign group, and I was in Long Lartin with Jeremy Bamber, and I got to be honest with you, there's no way he could have done it. There's just no way. I mean, I've looked at the evidence. We'd be here all day if I talked to you about all the evidence, and he's got an appeal coming up, so obviously it'd be sub judice anyway if it goes back to the Court of Appeal. You got the Craigavon too. They were wrongly convicted in Ireland. I've got a case then up in Scotland called the Luke Mitchell case. He was supposed to kill his girlfriend, and there's clear evidence that it was somebody else. There's DNA evidence. So I've travelled up to Scotland to campaign and help Luke Mitchell's campaign and joined their campaign. There's just so many cases all around the country, in England, Wales.
It's just bizarre, isn't it?
I feel because of my expertise in this field and because I've studied law, I feel I can help them. And that's what I do. I don't charge no money.
You've literally lived it, mate, haven't you?
Yeah, so, it's not about money. It's not about fame or anything like that. I mean, it's about doing the right thing.
So I understand what you're saying about, you want to help other people that was in the same position that you were in. But what about Michael? What about you? Or is this just what you enjoy to do anyway now?
Well, this is what I enjoy doing. I don't know whether enjoy is the right word. I get great satisfaction when I manage to do something positive for somebody. I mean, I've worked in the family courts as well. That's another thing with my law skills. I mean, a couple of years ago, this woman got her children taken off her. I played a small part in helping her get her kids back. And this Christmas, her two kids have spent time with their mum and they're at home now. Wow. And we fought through the family courts. It wasn't just me. The family fought tooth and nail. I just put the law together and said, right, and this is wrong. And I mean, it was just amazing. I've met the children as well. And, it sort of brought tears to my eyes to think that when you're fighting for somebody and it comes good, it means a lot to me. That's all the reward I want. Yeah, that's my reward, helping them and obtaining justice for people. That's what it's all about,
So has it given you... I've always believed, there's an old saying, the law is an ass and all of that. I believe in the judicial system, generally speaking. That's really hard to say to someone that's been through what you have. But, yes, there's going to be miscarriages. I mean, we're all human at the end of the day. But to be honest with you, I hope this isn't leading you in any way, but your case sounds to me like it was a deliberate setting up of you and the two co-accused. It doesn't sound like it was, it nearly fitted. It sounds to me anyway.
No, you're correct.
Like they've sat down and said, listen, let's just pin it on these. Well, just to clear the decks.
That's what it was, and that's what in the 80s
the battle. Outrageous.
But that's what's happening in South Wales all the time. Not just in South Wales, all over the country. I mean, I've got so many people contacting me. There's the joint enterprise cases as well, where people are just being there and somebody's killed somebody. The other people don't know anything about it until it's on top, and they're all getting found guilty of it. And some people are doing life sentences, and it's called joint enterprise law. That is terrible law, and it's convicted innocent people. That is shocking. Yeah. Then you've got the IPP prisoners, where they're giving them life sentences.
Indeterminate.
That's right. Yeah. And some people have got 2-year tariffs, and they've been in 18 years over a mobile phone. Nicking a mobile phone, I know one case. God. Absolutely outrageous. So there's many forms of injustice. And this is what people got to understand. It's not... My case wasn't a miscarriage of justice. A miscarriage of justice is a mistake. Mine wasn't a mistake. It was a setup.
Yours was a deliberate act.
Yeah, it's worse than that. And same as the Birmingham 6, same as the Guildford 4, Cardiff 5.
Have you ever had a confirmation of that from the guilty people? Has any of them ever confessed that, yes, that's what it was?
In what context?
Well, the guy that charged you originally, and the guy, the investigating officer.
No, I never had an apology from the people who done this to me, but some of the witnesses, I got to be fair, the witnesses who give evidence against us were very brave. They went on the Welsh Panorama programme, which is called the Week In, Week Out.
Right, yeah.
And they all admitted they give false evidence against us, knowing that they could be facing perjury charges. Now, I thought that was very big, but they said why they give evidence against us, which is down to the police. They were going to have their kids taken off them. They were threatened, coerced.
So they were coerced?
Absolutely,
wow,
absolutely. And
incredible. It's
still going on today. I mean, I work with the Innocence Project in Bristol University and Cardiff University. I've worked for Mojo in Scotland while I was in England at the time. I've worked with a number of organisations, and this is my life. This is my life.
Wow. Wow. It's all consumed you, hasn't it? Completely consumed your life, hasn't it?
That's all I do is write every day. I mean, I do other stuff besides. I do other law. People come to me for benefit help and stuff like that because I know how to do the forms because through other people, and I help them. I don't turn anybody away. If somebody needs my help and they're genuine, and I see they're genuine, then I will help them. Obviously, I want to say this because I've been involved in a couple of cases where I have found out the person has actually been guilty. So not everybody who says they're innocent is innocent.
Of course. The old saying is prison's full of innocent people, isn't it? So,
yeah, but, that's very rare I've come across this. Yeah. But I got to be fair, there was 1 or 2 cases I've come across and I've investigated it and looked at all the documents, and it's clear as day to me. And it's not me making a judgment, the evidence is there to prove it. Yeah. So therefore, I get annoyed when people waste my time, on stuff like that. If I spend 6 months, I get really annoyed. I'm not going to mention any cases, the 2 cases, because I don't think it's fair. It wouldn't be right to. I've mentioned them before on other podcasts and all that, and I've been threatened, and I've had a lot of hassle because I speak the truth. And I'm not going to do that no more. I know the truth, and that's what matters. Yeah. And some of these people who are saying they're innocent are going to come a cropper. You know what I mean? You always get found out, they say, don't you? So.
The truth will out and all that. Yeah.
But on the other side of the coin, you know what I mean? Like the Barry George case. I remember the Welsh media coming to me and saying, Mike, what do you think of this case? And I said, well, he's like my co-accused. He's very vulnerable, this, that, and the other. And they were all sceptical.
Yeah.
Who's the person they come to after the Court of Appeal? When he went to a trial and got his conviction quashed, they come to me wanting the story. I said, well, I told you. If the media would listen to me, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm pretty good on judgment. I've got it wrong once or twice. Once I went public with a case, and the other one I reserved judgment. I didn't go public with it because I felt there was something wrong. Yeah. But only once publicly I've gone on with somebody's case, and I found out they lied to me. Right. So, and I've investigated a number of cases. When I was with Mojo in Wales, I think I investigated 34 cases, and only 6 of them were genuine.
Right.
So that gives you some idea.
Yeah, Christ, yeah.
But they're the statistics, they're the facts. So you're always going to get people who say they're innocent because they can't cope with what they've done. Sure. And listen,
it's going to happen.
I've got no judgment against anyone who's guilty because I believe people deserve second chances. That's one thing I do.
Absolutely.
I want to say this. I do a lot for prisoners' rights as well. I've wrote a number of books on prisons, Prisons Exposed. I wrote, and I've spoke about the prison officers. I've met some good ones. I met some bad ones, and I wrote the stories as I experienced them. You know,
Yeah.
I'll say it as it is. And at the moment, there's a big campaign in Wales. I don't know whether you're aware of this, that 31 prisoners have died in one prison in Wales, and it's called Park Prison.
No.
There's a big scandal about it at the moment. There's, ministers are involved. It's run by a private prison. Now, I don't believe in private prisons.
I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Right. We're going down
prison for profit is a bad
that's
idea.
going down the American route, and I disagree with that.
Yeah.
But 31 people have died in this prison. Why is that prison still open? Now the person who's spearheading this campaign is called Zach, and there's a woman called Sophie, and they've got a big campaign. Today they campaigned outside the prison calling for change.
Yeah.
And my personal experiences is, all right, I know there's some bad prison officers and there's good prison officers, but I'd rather be under the Prison Officers Association rather than this private prison.
100%.
100%, because if there was 31 prisoners who died in Cardiff prison, there'd be an uproar. But because it's a private prison, that's okay. No, it's not okay. But they,
But they're happy to cover it up.
They're happy to cover it up, yes.
Yeah,
and, Zach and Sophie are doing a really good job of raising awareness. There's a TV documentary coming out soon about Park Prison and all the deaths. I'm hoping to write a book when I got time, for the victims' families, and sort of raise funds for their campaign. Because I'm very much into prisoners' rights. I mean, I've changed the law on prisoners' rights a few times. You know what I mean? With access to journalists. When I was in prison, they were stopping me having journalists coming up to visit me, and I took Michael Howard to court. I took Jack Straw to court.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. And the House of Lords judgment is O'Brien and Sims versus the Home Secretary of State. And basically what it says in there, prisoners maintain all their civil rights in prison unless Parliament have taken them away. So this is what I argued, Raymond versus Honey, 1983. And the judges agreed with me. 5 judges said that Mr. O'Brien can have journalists to come and visit him. He's saying he's a miscarriage of justice. There's no legal aid available. If a journalist can't investigate those cases, then you're stopping them having access to the courts.
Yeah.
So I've done some good things, in my life.
Yeah, sounds like it, yeah.
And that's what it's all about, It's not about self-gratification. It's not about, look at me, I'm doing well and all that. I do it because I care, and I do care. When I left the prison, and I had to leave innocent people behind, and guilty people, I had a tear in my eye when I left Gartree prison.
Yeah.
And this might sound strange to some people. When I came out, I was messed up, and I didn't spend as much time with my son Kyle as I should have. I let him down because I was more interested in helping other prisoners, because I knew them better than my own son. Does that make any sense?
Of course it does. No, it absolutely does.
And it messed me up, and it messed him up, I've apologised to him since, and, I've got my head together now over the years. But, I mean, when I first come out, I was running around the prisons, running around the country doing talks.
Yeah. Let me just ask you about that, if you don't mind, a couple of things. I'm curious as to... it's probably an obvious question, really, or an obvious answer. There must have been times sitting in your cell, halfway through, although you don't know it's halfway through at that point. You've been in 5 years now. There must have been moments where you thought, oh, fuck, this isn't going to happen. I'm just going to have to wear this.
No, I never give up.
Not for a second.
Not for a second.
Never had a moment's doubt.
Not when I got off the drugs and everything, and I stopped all the drinking, and I got my head together. I was always my head was always in a law book. Always in a law book. I was always positive, and I fought like a tiger. That's what they nicknamed me, Tiger, when guy called me.
Mate, you must be hard enough to roller skate on. Honest to God, I've known some hard guys in my time. I don't mean fighting wise.
Oh no, I'm not a fighter.
No, I don't mean that way. I mean spirit wise, and I mean, gee whiz, I'd have been in the depths of despair. I'm a stubborn bugger at the best of times, but Fucking hell. I mean, did you spend any time in the block?
Yes, I did spend. I had a few nickings and all that because I refused to work in prisons, and those silly nickings, really.
Yeah.
You know, because I refused to work because I said I'm an appellant and all that, and I pulled out the law books and it says like nobody should be what was it? Nobody should be slave labour, and it come under one of the European laws. And the governor agreed with me, and they left me alone. But I had about 6 nickings for it.
Right.
You know, it was only petty nickings.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yes.
I've never had anything serious in prison.
Sure.
I had a fight with somebody, and we went on the block, and stuff like that.
Yes, yeah.
But I have seen a few things down the block, which and I've seen things which I shouldn't have seen. You know, I've seen prisoners being beaten up, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
You know, whether they're innocent or guilty. There's not for anyone to judge. The fact is,
you're so vulnerable, aren't you?
You've got to treat people with humanity. You've got to treat prisoners with humanity. If you want them to stop committing crime, you've got to get to the root causes why they commit crime.
If they behave like an animal, stop treating them like one.
Absolutely, poverty is one of them.
Yeah.
The background, they might have had something wrong in their childhood. They might have been abused. They might have had, beatings off the stepfather or whatever. You don't know the circumstances, but the public seems to judge them.
Yeah.
Oh, let's get the whip out. Let's, crack the whip and all.
No,
we want these people to come out rehabilitated. And unfortunately, when I was in prison, the only prison I know where there was rehabilitation program was Grendon prison, and that prison is supposed to be really, really good. I never touched down in that prison because I wasn't part of the regime, you know. But I know people who've gone there and have changed their lives around.
Right. Good
you know. There is a lot of prisoners. There's all positives. You hear about the bad prisoners who don't want to change their lives around. And listen, you're going to get some who just are too far gone. You can't do nothing with. But there's a lot you can.
Of course, and you're obviously making headway on all of that. But if you don't mind me just harping back to your story again a little bit.
Yeah.
So that moment arrives, your cell door flies open, and someone's about to tell you that you're going home. You've won your appeal. What was that moment? That must have been incredible.
Well, believe it or not, it was on my daughter's birthday, the one I lost, right? December the 21st, I knew we were going for bail. What happened a few weeks before, the CCRC, the Criminal Cases Review Commission, sent that case back to the Court of Appeal. So I knew I was having an appeal.
Yeah.
And I badgered my solicitor, Gareth Pearce. She's done over 50-odd appeals at Birmingham 6 Guildford. She's well known. She's a star. She's brilliant, she is. Can't fault her. And I heard on the radio that I was going home the next day.
You heard on the radio?
Radio 5 Live. I was sitting in my bed. Lying on my bed, it was about 5:45. We opened up at 6 o'clock in Gartree Prison, and it said 3 men who claimed they were wrongly convicted are going to be released on bail pending an appeal tomorrow. Michael O'Brien, Ellis Hewitt, Darren O, blah blah blah.
So they knew before you did.
Everybody knew before I did, but the eruptions in the prison, the banging on the door, everybody was delighted. That night. There was all governors and all the prison officers all on the stairs, you know what I mean, on the landings and everything. Yeah. And I remember going up to the number 1 governor saying, I'm going to tell him what you've done to me over the years, all you lot. And I said, you're going to be sorry. My book, The Death of Justice, I'm going to expose you for what you are, so people can see what prison is really like. All this nonsense we're having caviar and chips and this, that and the other, it's just not on. I'm going to tell the truth. I said, and you're bullying officers down the segregation unit. And
good for you. Was it something about a microwave? You buy your own microwave or something? No.
It was about TV. A couple of weeks before.
Buy your own TV.
Yeah, two weeks before they were giving tellies out to prisoners. Now I never thought I'd ever see that day. And I just said to one of the prison officers, I said, "What are they then, boss?" He said, "Oh, they're TVs. You're not on the enhanced regime, so you won't get one, and you don't deserve one anyway. You're always causing us problems." I said, "Listen, pal, I'll buy my own fucking tellies when I get out."
Yeah.
So anyway, that day, going back to the day I got released, 5 minutes before I was released, I seen this officer. I went up to him and said, "Excuse me, officer." I said, "I told you I could buy my own fucking tellies now, didn't I? I'm going to get bail. I'm on bail now." And everybody just burst out laughing. The inmates, he went bright red. And you couldn't have wrote the script. You know. So I gets released. I'm standing outside with one prison officer who's a good one, Bob. I got to thank Bob. He helped me through in Gartree.
Yeah.
And He put my black box. I don't know if you remember the black boxes, the volumetric control boxes. People might remember.
Yeah, I think
you
so.
know,
Yeah.
And you have all your stuff in the box. Anything out of that, you couldn't have it. It had to go in reception.
Yeah.
So I put it on the he put it on the floor. I never seen so many media outside, and my son spotted me and he'd run over to me and I scooped him up in my arms.
Yeah, I bet you did.
You know, it was just, then my sister come over, she was heavily pregnant, then my mother come over, and I said, I can remember what I said on the call, on the thing. I said I had a Christmas dinner sorted out with all my mates. Do you know what I mean? I didn't expect this. This comes as a hell of a shock, you know. And then I was whisked back home to Cardiff.
What's a Christmas though? 4 days later.
Oh wow, it was amazing.
I bet it was.
It was my 13-year-old boy Kyle. Then, you know, we were up till 4 or 5 o'clock that night when I got home. I mean, I'd done interviews all day. I was absolutely shattered, and he fell asleep in my arms. Like, you know what I mean? It was the first time, you know. Yeah, I shed a little tear. I did shed a little tear.
Knowing you a little bit as I do now, I wouldn't be surprised if your thoughts turned to your fellow inmates at that moment as well.
I do think of the inmates all the time. There's so many people I remember, and I think, I wonder what happened to so and so. I wonder how he's doing. And I do find out through the grapevine, because I still got a couple of people who are in prison, you know, who are doing a long time, and I do get messages, you know, on site, you know, that who's Terry Smith. He's one of the IPP cases, but I think he's a victim of a miscarriage of justice, and I've been in contact with him.
Right.
I found him from Inside Time, you know, when they send letters into the Inside Time newspaper, and I thought, I didn't know he was still in. So I started writing to certain people. Another veteran, I don't think he should be in prison at all. I think he needed, because he suffered PTSD, I think he needed help. Right. Was Jimmy Johnson in Franklin Prison, and he helped me a lot.
I've heard that name before. Yeah,
Jimmy Johnson's a veteran. He won a mention in the dispatches. He's won a lot of commendations, like, you know, and his story's quite sad, really, because when he come out, he had no help. And I mean, we're talking about the 70s now, you know, where PTSD wasn't well known.
It was unrecognised.
He killed somebody because he thought somebody was trying to hurt him. He had a loud bang. This is what I've been told.
Yeah.
And the guy's coming towards him. So what are you going to do? The only thing you've been told to do is kill people.
Yeah.
So he went to prison for that, but he didn't have no treatment. But
an ex-Special Forces friend of mine once told me that the military will spend £20,000 teaching you how to kill people and not a penny teaching you not to.
Oh, I'm very much for the veterans. I got to be honest. I don't think the veterans should be in prison. I think they need a proper trauma centre, and when they come out of, whether it's Iraq, whether it's Bosnia, wherever they come from,
they need time.
They shouldn't be just thrown back to the family, because
no.
They need deregulation.
Lots of them kill the wives, kill the whatever they do. Yeah, they go off their head in a pub or whatever. Yeah,
they need help, and then you know, I feel for the veterans. You know what I mean? I really do. And I always said, you know, I speak to Jimmy Johnson from time to time. I've got to message him now. Like I've been so busy, I forgot to send him a little scribble, but I'll do that tomorrow. Like, you know, but there's a lot of veterans in prison, and I think. Is that a way to treat our heroes?
No, absolutely.
That's the question I would pose, you know.
Yeah. Oh no. There's another podcast coming with a couple of friends of mine that were in and stuff, and it's the stories are equally horrendous, but probably not as horrendous as yours, to be honest. Because I'm not an in-awe type person. But I can't begin to imagine how you felt, and I'm sure the viewers won't either, or the listeners.
But I'm a survivor now.
I've done some 11 years and 43 days. I mean, that is.
Well, some of the things I've achieved since I've been out. I mean, I've gone to university to study law. I got my A-levels in law at College Glenhavron. I've done a TV and radio presenting course. I'm a qualified TV and radio presenter. I've got a criminology diploma. I've got all sorts which I've done since I've been out, because I've stayed positive. Even I went through a rocky road when I first come out. I did go down the drugs road when I first come out and got my compensation. I managed quickly to reel that in and get off that road again, and then stay focused. And I've done. I think I've done okay for myself, in the sense, like, I've won 4 awards for my book. I'm only the guy from Ely, for crying out loud, from a council estate. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm a council estate boy too, and I don't.
But I won 4 awards, and I'm like, people say to me, you know, you won 4 awards, my international awards. I said, well, if people like my book, great. Because that's what it's about. It wasn't about awards. It wasn't about making money. It was about getting the story out there and inspiring people. Because that's what I try to do, is inspire people.
Of course, absolutely. So any lingering hard feelings towards anyone, any system, any...
No, I mean, I had to forgive the police for one reason. You know, don't get me wrong, I've had some ding-dongs since I've been out with them and all that, like, you know. Yeah, I mean, I was targeted by a number of criminals when I was living in my own home because I had compensation. The jealousy kicked in, I had my car smashed. Right. They were using 9-year-old kids. They couldn't get arrested because you've got to be 10, and all that. They were doing all that because I was trying to get off the drugs and they didn't want me to. They wanted my money. So,
of course,
I had to move to a nicer area, you know what I mean? And I don't mean that any disrespect to, you know, where I come from, because I admire, there's some really good people where I'm from, but where I was living at the time, it wasn't the best place, and I went through a hell of a hard time. But when I moved away from there, and started going to college and started doing TV programs. I've been on Panorama, you know, I've done stuff like that, you know, to help other people. I've been involved in so many campaigns, and I still am, like, you know, and I just think it's important that you turn a negative into a positive.
100%.
And everybody can do that, not just me, everybody.
Yeah, of course.
And if I can inspire just one person, just one youngster thinks, right, I'm not going to do crime. Look what happened to that Michael O'Brien. He was out trying to be one of the boys, and look what happened to him. If one person just stops and thinks...
It's all been worth it, hasn't it? Just for
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree with you.
I wouldn't be where I am today. And I mean, I've told a number of people I'm coming on this podcast. You know, I've told quite a few people. And do you mind if I give a shout out to Rachel Tudor? You know what I mean? She's a good friend of mine.
Do it to the camera there.
Yeah. All right, right. No, she's brilliant. She is. She's a really good friend of mine. She's an inspiring woman herself. She's been through a lot. I can't tell her story. That's for us to tell. But she's a wonderful person, and I've been speaking to her all the way up here today, like, you know, and she's wishing me well, and she can't wait for the podcast to come out. And
good.
So, you know, I said I'd give her a mention.
The more the merrier. Yeah, and you mention anyone you want to talk about your book. So,
well, as I said, I brought out 8 books altogether. I wrote one about my son. It's called Dylan's Story: A Father's Journey. Right. And I showed the hospital for what they did. I mean, they didn't sue me or anything because they couldn't, because I put all the facts in there. My first book is called The Death of Justice, and that's my autobiography. That tells you when I was living in Ely, when I was growing up, what I was doing, what kind of person I was beforehand, how it's changed me when I was wrongly convicted, you know, and stuff like that. And near enough, when I sued the police, I think it goes up to when I sued the police, which is in 2008, this is. But I am bringing out a book called, at the moment, I've got 5 chapters done, and it's about my 26 years since I've been out. And there's a lot of topsy-turvy, you know, like, as I said, with my car being smashed, I've been attacked, and I've had a lot of trolls online. Yeah. You know, I've had all this and that because I do high-profile things. You know, I go on Good Morning Britain, I goes on the TV, and unfortunately, it does bring the weird and wonderful as well with all the good. So,
do you know, it's weird, the troll thing. I mean, when I first lost my vision, I got some messages that were just unbelievably cruel. There's no other, I can't find a decent way to explain it. Messages that are from people that I thought were friends. I've just heard about what's happened. This was an example. I've just heard about what's happened, and I just want to say, enjoy life as a pedestrian, you twat.
Well, I've had some terrible things.
Because I couldn't drive anymore, you know.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible.
It's nothing really, but it just tells you the depth that some people will go to, you know.
Well, I've had people saying I'm guilty of the murder, and there's still people out there now who say, you know, you got off on a technicality, even though I've had an apology from the Chief Constable and they've accepted it. The Court of Appeal accepted I'm innocent. But there's some people out there, there's no smoke without fire. They want to judge you. I've had a lot of judgment over the bed and board case. When I was on Good Morning Britain, there was some comments on the ITV page saying, well, if you've been paid out, you can't be paid out a second time. And I'm thinking, well, you don't understand the arguments. What are you talking about? But unfortunately, I've learned to laugh those people off now and fight them back. I'll just put a comment on there. You don't know my case, mate. You're an idiot. Go away. And that's all I put.
Clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, so, you know, and who the hell are you anyway? I say to him, you know, I said, you're a nobody. And I start having a go with them. I said, you know, you're probably just one of those arseholes, like, you know, got nothing better to do and slag people off. And, you know, so I've I've had all that, you know, with the trolls and that.
Yeah, but because you're a driven person, as I am myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, you know, other people, I think, fire at you sometimes because us being the way we are, driven, always pushing, all it really does is expose how nothing they are. Do you know what I mean? It exposes them for what they really are, which is zero. You know what I mean? They haven't got the gumption to do it. They haven't got the balls to do it. And you being as successful in it as you are shows them up for what they really are. You know?
I find that sad, see, because I like to bring people up with me. You know what I mean? I like to. If somebody, say for instance, somebody won the lottery tomorrow and they had 97 million and all that, would I hell be jealous of them? I'd be like, go on, mate, have a good life. Good on you, mate.
And not ask them for a penny, yeah.
And that's what you've got to be like with people. You can't be, oh, he's got a BMW, but I've only got a Renault Clio. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
nothing wrong with Renault Clios, by the way.
I've had a Renault Clio. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? You can't, you know, I did have a Renault Clio, actually. I was driving a Renault Clio, and they were jealous of me because I had a Renault Clio, and I don't know how they worked that one out. You know, they were the ones who had the BMWs, but they were mortgaged up to the hilt. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I'm like, and the jealousy and all that was come into it.
Yeah, but, because of your compensation amounts and stuff, so everyone was trying to take. And
well, I went through some rocky roads. This is what my book is called. It's called Life After Life.
Yeah.
So this is freedom, and I'm explaining from the moment I was told I was going home the next day, and it's right up to the present day. It's going to be right up to today, like today. By the time I finish with it, and I went through some horrendous things. Yeah. It's made me a better person. You know, I was very ill when I come out. You know, I still got the illnesses. I suffer from sleep apnea. I was diagnosed a couple of years ago, and I collapsed. I didn't know what was going on. I've got other health issues as well. I've got lung problems. I can't walk very far. But I don't let it stop me. You know? I just get on with it. Don't grumble. I'm just grateful I'm still here because, unfortunately, there's been a number of miscarriages of justice victims who haven't made it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard the case of Kevin Callan, right? He was wrongly convicted.
Sounds familiar.
I think his case was in Manchester as well.
Maybe.
And he died of a heroin overdose because he couldn't cope with anything. So most of them go on the drugs. There's Yusuf Abdullahi of the Cardiff Five, the Lynette White case. I don't know if you're familiar with that one in Cardiff.
I'm not.
No, they caught the real killer in that case, actually. They actually caught, years later. But what I'm trying to say is, most of the Paddy Hill just died recently of the Birmingham Six. You know, we're losing a lot of people because at a very early age, some of them they're not even reaching 50. And Hewins didn't reach 50 or 51, I think she was, because they're so traumatized by what they've been through that they haven't got that strength like I have. I'm very lucky, man. I'm just, you know, thank to God that I've managed to come through everything I have, you know, and.
Are you a religious person?
I am, and you know, I'm more spiritual. I think that's the more word. I do believe we have a purpose in life. I think we all have a purpose in life, and maybe our lives are mapped out. I don't know.
Who knows?
I've had some strange things happen. You know what I mean? Which I think, oh, maybe my father's watching me. You know, and certain things, telltale signs, and I'm just thinking, I just wonder whether I'm being watched over. You know.
So. Sorry to labour that point again, but so somebody came along and told you in your cell you're going home tomorrow. You couldn't have slept that night, surely.
No, I had a few joints, mind. I gotta be honest. I did have a few joints. I know. I was like, "Whoa, this can't be real." You know, did I hear right?
Wow.
You know, is this right? You know, but
do you remember his words?
I remember what I said on the radio, that we were being released in the morning on £5,000 bail, and we're pending a new appeal. Right. Then we were known as the Cardiff News Agent 3. And the producer who done a programme about us in '96, where all the witnesses retracted their statements and said that they framed us and went on national television, he cut in and said, well, it's about time these men were freed. It's 11 years too late, you know, and he was talking about our case and whatever. I never seen such a media frenzy when I come out, mind. Oh my God. I done a special edition of the Week In Week Out team, as I said, like Welsh Panorama equivalent in Wales.
Yeah.
And I remember my first meal was a pizza. It was about quarter size of this table. I've never seen a pizza so big in all my life. And that was my first meal. And
but it was nice though, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, being from a poor background,
yeah,
I wasn't going to waste this, so I took it home with me, like, you know what I mean? I still had my, you know, I'm not wasting that, like, you know, that cost a bomb, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was, you know, everybody was laughing at me in the studios, like, thinking, you know, typical, you know, council lad, like, you know, don't waste nothing, you know, and I just laughed. So I went on with the pizza, you know, in a taxi, and then I thought, I've done all the media interviews for today, that's it. Oh, I was mistaken. They were all in my mother's house one day, all lined up the streets and everywhere. God. There was people, there was public there. It was just nuts. I was doing interviews till at least 11 o'clock that night when I come out.
So what about your ex-wife, the lady that left you when you were convicted? Well,
if
it's too personal,
no. When I first come out, I was very bitter at her because I didn't understand. Like I've always been a family man, and I believed that you should stand by it. And I couldn't work out why she left me before the trial. She could have at least waited. This is what I was thinking at the time.
I think it's because she was 18.
Yeah, But now I'm more mature and whatever, and I look back on it, I was quite harsh on her, and unfairly harsh. Because what would I have done if the boot was on the other foot? See, and that's what I you know, I'm at now, and
I don't think anyone would know unless they were in that position. At 18, it's kind of understandable. Maybe she was getting pressure from her parents to, you know, get away from this.
No, I don't hold anything against her at all. Like, you know what I mean? You know, I might have done exactly what she did. You know, she just lost her child. Her husband's inside.
It must have been tough for her as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was tough for her. Like, you know, and. No, I got no ill feelings towards my ex-wife, not at all. You know, at the end of the day, if you're gonna move on with your life, you have to forgive everybody. You can't just pick and choose.
No, of course not.
You know, I forgive the CPS for not doing their job. I forgive Stuart Lewis is the police officer. He's well documented in all my books. I forgive him, and I had an unusual encounter with this police officer as well. So if you don't mind me mentioning it, I was doing a charity gig over Penarth, where it's not far from where I live in Cardiff, and I seen an old guy on a scooter. I thought, I recognise that face. I'll recognise that face, you know, anyway. And it was this copper.
Right.
And I went up to him and I said, you're going to meet your maker before me, and I hope you realise that, you know, if there is a God, you won't be going up to the pearly gates. And I started having a go at him, you know, but not ranting and raving, just saying, you're a bad man. And I said to him, like, I'm not going to hit you. I would have, when I first come out, I would have thrown him all around and ragged him around like a rag doll, like, you know what I mean?
But you know better than that now.
No, I took pity on him because I seen he was an old man, he was frail, he was in a thing, and I thought, like, he'd be beating up a child. You can't do that kind of thing.
No,
and I was an adult now, and I was grown up.
Yeah.
But I walked away, and do you know something? I felt such a big sense of relief.
Really?
I did, yeah. Wow. I felt, wow, I've actually met the copper who done this to me, and I can walk away. That's when I knew I was healing.
Was that the officer in charge as well?
Yeah, that was the officer. Wow. That was the officer who made up the confession outside the cells.
Wow. Well, he's had to live with that as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he done it deliberately, and I knew he'd done it deliberately.
The thing is, it can't have been the only time he's done it then, can it really?
Well, he hasn't. He's done it numerous times. I mean, I got one of my books out. It's called Justice Denied. I did name it Ben Cop, but the publisher's got a bit jittery on that. Like, you know,
do you use the same publisher every time?
No, I've got different publishers. I published a couple myself. You know, I ended up publishing Justice Denied myself because a lot of the publishers were scared because of what I was saying about the police.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
But in saying that, I've published 6 books with different publishers. I got Yololva in South Wales, which have been brilliant with My Death of Justice, and Prisons Exposed. They're the 2 books I won for international awards for, and I'm grateful for all the book publishers. Moving Mountains is another one I did. Right. That was to do with overcoming injustice and loss. That's what it's called.
Right. Do you do audio book with it as well?
I'm trying to get some of the books into audio, but I haven't managed to do that at the present time. But that is something I need to look at. But the one positive thing is, there's 2 positive things which have come up. I'm doing a 3-part documentary for the BBC next year. It's in its infancy at the moment, and we're dotting the I's and dotting the T's, but there's going to be another podcast like on BBC Radio Wales and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be telling my whole life story, right up to the present day. And I got to be honest with you, I am in a good place, you know, even though I'm still on medication and I still have my bad days, don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you do, but generally speaking, you're an absolute inspiration. You're incredible, really incredible person to have the outlook that you clearly have. And I can see, with my poor vision, I can hear and I can feel how genuine you are with it. And it's if you'll excuse the vernacular, it's fucking amazing. It really is. I'm so in awe of you, really, and I don't do that very often.
I'm just an ordinary guy who just went through a few bits, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
fair enough.
I've turned it around, and you know, had I not done that thing, had I not nicked that card and I didn't question, where would my life taken me? And the answer to that is I don't know, because I've been asked that many a times.
You'll never know.
And it's no point in looking back. You've got to look forward. You know, I've been out now 25 years. I've done so many podcasts, I've done so many TV programs, I've raised people's profiles on their cases.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about now, you know. Yeah. And I know I got a good voice, especially in Wales. I got quite a big voice, and I'm getting a bigger voice in England as well.
Yeah, good.
Going on, you know. But I'm using myself as a vehicle to help other people.
Of course.
You know, it's not about me.
Sat in the cell that you were sat in.
And I do feel for them. I do think
of course.
There is at least 2,000 people, as me and you were talking, who were 100% innocent in prison, who wasn't there, who didn't do the crime, and some of them are very serious crimes as well.
You see, I was always, I accept the fact that there's going to be miscarriages of justice, there's going to be mistakes made, we're all fallible human beings at the end of the day. Yours is different. That was a deliberate, to me, it sounds to me like it was a deliberate plan and execution of your downfall. Somebody in authority decided you were going to wear this, and that's the end of it. Whether you did it or not, they didn't seem to give a shit to me.
But there's a number of other cases like that as well. I'm not the only one. You know, in the Cardiff 5 case, they were looking for one black person. They ended up getting one white person, and they ended up getting 5 black people. I don't know where are they going with that.
I mean, it's just, how do they make it stand up in court, for Christ's sake? I mean, it's baffling. It's baffling. But
do we need professional juries? I do wonder sometimes. You know what I mean? People have said that to me, and I said I don't know the answer. There is no.
Oh, I'd be very, very wary of that.
But it's
jury
been
for
mentioned.
Money. Come on.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's not something I would advocate, but it has been put to me a few times, in interviews and stuff like that. Or do we have a system like we got in France, where the magistrates actually investigate the cases and tell the police what to do, rather than the police telling the magistrates what to do?
I think, with all due respect, they'd have to lower the age of the magistrates, because a lot of them I've seen they're off with the fairies half the time, falling asleep in the middle of a case.
Yeah, well, this is it. No, but these are the things which have been put to me, like in interviews over the years, and some of the. I'm putting those questions out there. What the public feel about that?
Yeah,
be interesting to have some feedback from your listeners to see what they think.
Yeah, and viewers. Forward. Yeah, just put it in the comments, guys. What do you think about that? So it's to me, it's very similar to when we were talking before about private prisons or not. To prison for profit, I vehemently disagree with that, and I would be the same for being a jury member for profit too, because it makes it viable to me. You can pay them off a lot easier, I think. I don't know, can you pay them off anyway? I don't really know, to be honest. But I wouldn't like, if it was my life on the line, if I'm in the dock, I want to look at these people knowing they haven't got a vested interest in me going to prison.
Well, yeah, that is a big point.
You know,
that's a very good point. I know our system is not perfect, and it's probably out of all the systems around the world, we have probably got the best one out of the bad bunch. You know, to be honest with you, we have got the best one.
I think you're right. That's what I was trying to say earlier.
I agree with you. The only thing is, if we're going to make it better, the system, and we can make it better. Accountability for these people. If a police officer lies and puts an innocent man in prison, he's got to be thrown into the walls.
Absolutely slammed.
If a prison officer does it, the same thing. if a solicitor doesn't do his job, he should be held accountable.
I agree.
A barrister,
or her, yeah,
you know, him, her, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's all I've argued. You know, I'm not anti-police by any stretch of the imagination. You know what I mean? No. I know the police got a very, very difficult job to do. I couldn't do some of the jobs they do.
And same with prison officers as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they've seen people murdered. They've seen people battered. They've been battered themselves, you know, the police have. Yeah. So you've got to look at it in the round. On the whole, the system, you know, is not as bad as what people try to say. But it's bad when it happens to you.
Of course, like anything else, yeah.
So
one of my exes was a prison officer, and she was an officer for 18 years. And one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Well, I haven't told anyone this yet. I've never made this public, but my daughter's a prison officer at Cardiff Prison.
What?
Yes.
Your daughter now is a prison officer?
She's a prison officer. I can't name her for security reasons,
no,
but she's a prison officer at Cardiff Prison. I'm very proud of her. She's come a long way.
The same prison you were in?
Same prison I was in, yeah.
That ironic. Is incredible.
And she's doing wonderful things, helping the youngsters in there. She don't take no nonsense. She's a tough cookie, you know, but she's a lovely person.
Wow, that you've floored me with that one.
Yeah,
really
she's a prison officer. Yeah, she is.
Wow,
and,
that's unbelievable.
We're very proud of her, like, you know.
I'll bet you are.
And she's helping the youngsters, and she's trying to get them on the right road. She's in there for the right reason.
For sure,
yeah, she's in there for the right reasons. She wants to make a difference, you know. And you know, I've met some. I got to be honest, I met some brilliant prison officers. Terry England. I hope one day he listens to this podcast. Terry England was a star. I was in Long Lartin. He was one of the laundry managers in the prison, but he was a prison officer, and he was good to me, like, you know what I mean. And there was Peter, his sidekick, as I used to call him. He liked Wolves, and I was a Cardiff fan, so you can imagine the banter and everything, you know. So we had a good laugh, you know. So in my darkest moments, I did meet some really good prison officers. I got to say that. I'm not going to sit here and say to you they're all bad and this, that, and the other, because they're not.
Stupid,
but one of the governors, Governor Parker, I would like to meet him if he's still alive, because he was a diamond. He's seen I was innocent, and there was a few others who seen I was innocent. Yeah. And when I was down in the segregation unit, I got into an altercation with one of the prison officers who was a bit of a bully, and I was taken down the block, and I was stripped of all my clothes and bent up and thrown in the strip cell and all that. And Governor Parker come down, and I said, Governor, I'm not going to have a fair hearing here. He said, listen, I'm on in the morning. Yeah. I'll have a word with the prison officer on the wing who's seen what happened. Yeah. And the prison officer on the wing said the other officer was out of order. Wow. And Governor Parker said to me it was an accident of circumstance, right? So I was pulling his leg down. I said, well, if I get up in the morning and I get up in a bad mood and I just, you know, give your officer a dig, is that an accident of circumstance? He said, no, don't push it, O'Brien. No, get out, like, you know.
Take the win.
Yeah. Take the win and get out, like, you know. But that was the last time I ever seen Governor Parker, and he was a good governor, fair, you know.
Do you know his full name?
I don't, unfortunately. I just know him as Governor Parker.
I'll ask a friend. He's been on this podcast. He was an ex-prison governor. Don't know if you've seen the podcast. I'll ask him, see if he knows him.
Yeah, he was in Long Lartin. He was a good one. He was a tough cookie. Took no nonsense, but he was fair, and that's all you asked for.
No, absolutely. So I've got a favour to ask you, but just before we wrap.
Okay.
Your book, Life After Life.
Yes.
Can I have a signed copy for one of my viewers?
Yeah, of course.
And in the comments, I'm going to put a shout out for whoever comments first or 10th or whatever. I'll give it to them. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Will you sign it for us?
Yeah, of course. You know, as I say, I've got some books for yourself anyway, like, you know what I mean? But if anybody wants a copy of my book, I've got my own website as well where you can read about my story. It's www.cardiffnewsagent3, all one word, .com.
CardiffNewsAgent3.com. Now, newsagent or newsagents?
Newsagent.
So Newsagent 3.
Yeah, it's all one word. Cardiff Newsagent.
Well, we'll put that up on the screen as we're saying it. www.cardiffnewsagent3.com.
Yeah,
it's on the screen there below. Nice one. So and we can find all your books on there.
Yeah, my books are on there. You know,
most bio and all that.
Yeah, that's it. And at the end of the day, if people want to contact me even, you know, if there's anything I can do to help them, you know, or put them in the right direction, you know.
If they have a family member suffering injustice at the moment,
Well,
etc.
well, this is it. You know, what I do, I don't actually work on so many individual cases because of my health problems. I can't sit there and go through the case files like I used to do.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure,
and I've because I'm a single dad now, and I've been bringing him up since he was 7.
Right.
He's now 13 now. Oh my God, I feel old. But you know,
we're a similar age, I think, Michael.
Yeah. Well, I'm 50. I'm 58 this year. Actually, I'm 57 now, but I'm nearly 58.
Right.
You know,
I've just turned 59.
But I still feel like I'm 20, you know. My body says, no, I'm not having it, but my brain says, you know.
Yeah, your brain thinks it's 20, your body thinks it's 200. I'm
there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, so have a look at the website, everybody, and there will be a free copy for someone, Life After Life. So This Is Freedom?
That is correct, yes.
And whoever wants that, give us a shout. Have a look on our website as well, magoostudios.co.uk, and we'll send it out to the person who writes in first. How about that? All right, nice one. So listen, Michael, thank you. I could talk to you for a fortnight. I really could. And I'm so grateful of you coming. You've come an awful long way. It's been a long journey. You've got a long one back. And I'm just super grateful. I'm super inspired as well by what you do. And you're my new hero, mate. Honestly, I think you're absolutely fucking amazing, and that's the truth.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for your nice comments and everything.
It's the truth. I don't say anything unless it's the truth. No. It's the blind truth. That's why we call it that.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant.
So thanks again, mate, and hopefully in the future you'll honour us by coming on again.
Well, when the book comes out, maybe when the book comes out, the Life After Life, maybe I can come back on and
absolutely
and give you a few copies to your listeners.
That'd be fantastic. I really appreciate it.
No, that's no problem at all. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.